good morning. It is Friday the 26th of April. I just said goodbye to my parents, had a good cry in a public metro station, but I'm in the train station now and I am on my way to Edinburgh for the Woolly Good gathering. So I'm very excited and I'll hopefully take you along. Hello, so I made it to Edinburgh and I am walking over to Summerhall. It is so much warmer here than it is at home. I'm really overdressed, but it'll be okay. Look at this park that has just been allowed to grow free. Love it. Lots of dandelions. Love it! And then I arrived at the Summerhall, this beautiful building, and after waiting in really just a bit of a line, I went straight into my first talk, which was with Gilpin and Sheila Greenwell. I took these photos. I was still a bit nervous about taking photos in this public space, but just to give you a sense of we were in this great old lecture room that was part of the veterinary college. And then after the lecture, I got to go out and do a bit of looking around. I didn't do any shopping initially. I was a bit overwhelmed, but I think that this little bit of footage that I managed to capture gives you a really good sense of just, it was a nice community atmosphere, lots of knitters. And then I was back in for another talk, this time with Sylvia Cherry, and this was a real highlight of the day for me. Her talk was really lovely and funny, and she just seemed like such a lovely person. I was also really pleased with the Summerhall venue. There were lots of good places to go and have a bit of a sit. After I got out of the second talk, I went and I did do a little bit of shopping, but then the crowds started to get to me just a little bit, so I found myself a little corner in a cafe inside the Summerhall. And I feel like I look very serious in this footage, but this is me quite happy. I had realized that I hadn't had almost anything to drink all day, so I sat down, I bought myself a nice drink at the cafe, and just gave myself a few minutes to myself to knit and recharge, and really just enjoy the day without feeling like I had to rush around the whole time, which is always really nice. After my bit of a recharge, I explored some of the other parts of the Summerhall, which functions as a community art space, and found some really cool exhibits. I had a lot of fun wandering around, poking into this room and that room, almost tipping over this globe, but it was okay. And it was just a really nice kind of secondary outlet. In addition to all of the fiber arts that I expected, it was really fun to find these other things. So all in all, a really great day. Okay, it's coming up on 6 o'clock. I stayed almost the whole day in the Summerhall. It was wonderful. It was busy, some crowds, but places to get away from the crowds as well. And I had a nice sit to hydrate in the cafe for a little while. I bought some fun things, but not too many fun things. I didn't go overboard. I think I'm pleased with how much I spent. And now I'm heading off. My partner is taking the train to come up to meet me. He's on the train now, and we're going to dinner with some friends who are then going to host us overnight. We're going to stay with them and then back to Summerhall tomorrow. So and then I got hit by a pretty terrible migraine that came with a big flare, and I couldn't get out of bed or really face daylight or noise. So I didn't make it back to the second day of the Woolly Good gathering, which was, I'll be honest, very disappointing. But overall, it was still a really positive experience. And you know, this is just the reality. We don't always all get to do all of the things that we plan to do. But I did just want to chat through, since I didn't get to film anything more and didn't get kind of any more filming time at the festival, I did just want to talk a little bit about how I think it went. For me, it really was a very positive experience, and it felt really well organized. I didn't realize until I was there on the day, really, that it had been started as a Kickstarter. And I think that really contributed to the sense of community that I felt at the Woolly Good gathering. You know, I'm quite independent. I do lots of things alone, but I'm always a little bit intimidated to go to something like this on my own. It is the kind of thing people often go to with a group, with friends. If I was in Montreal, I definitely would have gone with friends, but going on my own to this kind of thing is almost always rewarding, and this time it really was. And I think that the Kickstarter contributed to that because so many people really felt like they had been a part of it themselves. And you know, we're really happy to volunteer that they had been part of the Kickstarter, and how proud they were of the day. You know, when I first arrived, there was a bit of a line, and I had to be going to a lecture right away, so I was a bit stressed about, should I be in the big line, or I saw a smaller line for the lecture, should I get in that, should I wait in one or the other? And the organizers were so lovely. There was a really good attitude, even with a bit of a line. It moved really quickly, everyone was in a good mood, and that just worked really well. I think that the classes also, the classes and the lectures, I didn't do any classes this time, but the lectures certainly always contribute to a sense of community for me as well, because it's like being in class, you know, you sit down and you chat with the people to your right, you chat to the people with your left, and I just felt like people were quite open and smiley all day. One of the women that I sat next to in one of the lectures actually was a vet, and she had done her veterinary training in that great lecture room that we were in, so that was really neat as well. It was just, you know, lots of people sharing their experiences, a really good atmosphere, and a fun day overall. I met a lot of knitters, a lot of crocheters, chatted with some of the vendors as well, and I'm not big on acquisitions in general. I think I've said this before and then talked about some acquisitions. I'm going to do that again because I feel like part of sharing your experience of going to a wool festival is sharing the kinds of things that you bought, the kinds of things that were available, so that if other people are interested in going to future editions, they have a sense of what's to come. But acquisitions are not for everybody. If this is the kind of thing that isn't going to make your day better, then thank you so much for joining. Please feel free to leave us here. I more than understand. I often leave videos at this stage. But I did buy some fun things. I didn't spend too much, which is always a better outcome for me, I often find. And talking about the kind of the money and the finance involved in a hobby like knitting can be a bit tricky because we're all coming at it from different angles and we're all coming at it from different comfort levels of what we spend on our hobbies. For me, I tend to prefer having a lot of time to decide what I'm going to buy, having quite a bit of time to think of at least a few different projects I can apply it to so that I'm sure that I will use whatever yarn I buy. So wool festivals or this kind of market isn't always ideal for me. And in shopping in general, my motto is, in the past, I have regretted buying things more often than I have regretted not buying things. It's happened that I pass something up and then I regret it later and I think, oh, I really should have bought that. But it happens a lot less than I think, oh, I bought that because I was, excited and I was full of, happy atmosphere and environment, and actually, oh, I don't know what I'm gonna do with that. But this time I think I did really, really well. Only going for one day did help with that, though I have to say, my husband, my partner, hates crowds even more than I do. Hates shopping. I asked him to go to the festival with me. He said, abso-freaking-lutely not. But when I woke up pretty miserable on the Saturday, he not only offered, but he really insisted on going because he knew that there were 2 balls of yarn that I was really eyeing and I just wanted to sleep on them and go back the next day. And he really sweetly went back and had a really lovely chat with the woman at Black Isle Yarns. So that was very kind, and I will show what he bought for me. But in general, going for one day, that helped a lot because things that I've been thinking of, I didn't go back for. But to start off, the first thing that I bought when I got out of the first lecture and did a first wave and then went back through and considered things a bit more carefully is some hand-dyed wool roving. This is the first time that I've ever bought hand-dyed roving, and I am very excited about this. As always, I'm a bit intimidated, but I would really love to learn to spin a fractal. I'm maybe not going to do this right away, but I'm going to tuck this away until I feel a bit more comfortable with my spinning, and I'm planning to spin a fractal. This is from the label on here is a bit pixelated, so I got a paper bag to keep it from felting inside my backpack. So you can see the label there. So this was from Woolly Cottage, and it is labeled as the color Springer Bloom, and it is 102 grams of hand-dyed merino. So I've never worked with merino before. I generally prefer to stick to local breeds when I can. But even though merino is not typically a local breed, I thought that this would still be a lovely addition to my collection of fiber to felt, because it is, locally dyed by someone who is based in the UK. So, and I love the colors. So look out for that at some point. The second thing that I bought was actually towards the end of the first day. I was walking through and kind of thinking, okay, I really haven't done very much shopping at all. I should give things a serious look. And things quieted right down in the last hour, which was really nice. And I bought something that's not knitting related at all. But I'll show you the business card first. So this is the business card for Shop Beyond Measure. It was just really lovely. There's the back of her card. And because it was the end of the day, she and I had a really good chat. She asked me if I wanted to pay by card or cash, and I had been a bit overwhelmed. I was a bit tired, and I just felt completely blank, and it took me a second, and then I kind of laughed and said, I'm so sorry. It's the end of the day for me. I just totally didn't register your question, but it must be even more for you. And she had a helper there with her. So we had a good laugh about that. And then chatted a bit about Newcastle and Manchester, where she was from. And it turns out her sister lives in the same part of the world that I live in, so that was quite fun. But what I bought from her are 2 bundles, let me hold them up for you, of tweed. And what these are samples that a mill near where she is based in Manchester makes up for various companies. And then the companies can choose whether they want to go forward with production for those tweeds or not. So there's bundle number 1, kind of greens and browns. And here's some blues and grays. And I've said before that I do not own a sewing machine and I'm not a big sewer, but I think I bought this partially because Mum had just been visiting and she and I were doing lots of chatting about what we could make together this summer. I've never really sewn much on my own, but sewing is something that Mum and I have done quite a lot together, and we used to make, you know, clothes for both of us together and really enjoyed doing that. And we've been talking about how I would really like a few more skirts in my wardrobe, and I'm struggling to find skirts that I, you know, really fall in love with. And I'm kind of thinking maybe a patchwork skirt. That's a lot of work for, I'm a very novice sewer. Mum is a much more accomplished sewer, but I think that could be good. And we've got a visit scheduled this summer, actually. We're seeing each other again very quickly because my childhood best friend is getting married, so I have a trip booked in really quickly. So maybe that, or a quilt, quilted coasters, a quilted wall hanging. I don't know, the possibilities seem endless and I am excited about this. So, some fabric. And then the final thing, because that was all that I actually bought for myself on that first day, and when my partner, went back on the second day, the dyed yarn that I had been looking at Black Isle Yarns, because Black Isle Yarns is a really lovely company based in Scotland, and she uses all sorts of different natural dyes to produce these really gorgeous skeins of yarn. And I had heard about Black Isle Yarns and I'd looked at her website and I'd just never quite taken the plunge, so I was looking at her booth on Friday, and the color that I kind of settled on and sent Lewis to get, she was out of. So I think I will have to order some of that from the website at some point. Lewis was very sweet and even talked to her about it, and they had a good laugh about, you know, she kind of said not many husbands come in to shop on behalf of their wives. I think it was pretty clear that he wasn't there for himself. So that's a nice story as well. But what I did buy, or what he did manage to find for me, and what I am very excited about, is just one ball, but it's one ball of Monkey Face and Friends. And I chatted with her about this because I was wondering about the name. Monkey Face is an unusual name for a wool, and it is a wool that is made up of, it says crossbreeds, mostly Wensleydale Cross, 30%, Blue-Faced Leicester, 25%, and Gotland, 45%. And the reason that it is called Monkey Face and Friends is because originally a majority of this fiber came from one specific sheep named Monkey Face. And she was talking about how now obviously her production is too big for that, and the wool is coming from hundreds of sheep instead of just Monkey Face and a few others. But Monkey Face is still in here, and so are several of Monkey Face's descendants. So I thought that that was just, you know, too sweet a story to pass up. And the wool is gorgeously soft, like incredibly soft. And I think it's gonna have really good drape. And it's just beautifully marled because and she was saying, I think it was the BFL is kind of oatmeal colored and the Gotland is a gray. And I can't remember what she said the Wensleydale was in this case. I think that's lighter colored as well. But you're getting this really gorgeous marled mix of wools, and beautifully local and hilarious. I mean, who doesn't want to knit with a wool named after a sheep named Monkey Face? So those are the purchases that I made at the Woolly Good Gathering, and I just had a really wonderful time. So thank you to the organizers, and I had never really been to a fiber festival like this before, and I will definitely have to go again. So thank you so much for joining me. That's it for me, and I'll see you next time.